Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We Believe Digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, We Believe Digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good evening and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South. There's trouble in the land. Everywhere you look, there's crime and wars and rumors of wars that's going on down south and in particularly in Mississippi. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, I want you to share this program with your friends and family, send us stars, and subscribe to the program. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe as well. Hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of these important shows that we're bringing you. You're only going to get this information from We Believe Digital Broadcasting Network. So stay tuned. We're getting ready to move right into our show, and we're going to bring you some significant information. But Doc, how have you been?
I'm doing fine, sir. Been great, I tell you. It's good to be doing well, I would think, in a good hot Mississippi. It's very hot climatically, and it's hot otherwise. People are killing each other, moaning and groaning over internal family problems. And the weather is getting ready to get a little hotter, so it might intensify some of the actions that we have today, more so than in the past.
Wow. Doc, I got to get right into it. This incident, this, I don't know if you call it this murder, this manslaughter, this accident surrounding Nolan Wells is catching the country attention. We noticed that they had the funeral today, on Monday, July 20th, at Center Point Church in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Now, hundreds of mourners, including family, friends, and community members, gathered to honor a star that has tragically found his demise. And Doc, it brings me back to the times when you were a boy in Mississippi. And I gotta go back, Doc. I gotta go back and take you to Money, Mississippi with Emmett Till. And we gotta talk about it. These incidents like this with Mr. Wells are causing us to revisit old wounds and tragedy in our state from years ago. Where were you and how old were you when Mr. Emmett Till was brutally murdered?
I think I was about 12 years of age, 12 or 13.
And what part of the country were you in?
Well, I was living down in Hinds County at that time. Hinds County, Mississippi, yes.
But you were familiar with the area?
Very much so. As a traveler, I moved from that area, and we would go back to the Delta from time to time. And I later had a lot of opportunities to visit when I got in my mid-teens. So I'm very familiar with that area and the culture in that part of the Delta. Matter of fact, it hasn't changed very much since that period.
Apparently not, if we're talking about an incident that just recently occurred. We got a funeral on today down in Ocean Springs. And so it doesn't seem like times have changed at all.
Well, not at all. So you don't expect change when you have some of the same people that are promoting and operating governments on the local and the state level in Mississippi. I tell you and tell others often that some of the same legal sheriffs, members in the House and Senate, judges and other are relatives of those same folks that caused a lot of racial divide in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and especially in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s in Mississippi and the nation. Now, this is nationwide. You don't have a lot of change in America when it comes to racial divide and murders, attempted murders, rumors of murders, rumors of what I call people drowning. But all at the same time, you find that there's a lot of hesitation when certain people are involved. You find that it is traditional to exclude certain evidence and always say that first it appears that this person drowned or he or she committed suicide until further investigation.
Well, the further investigation is taking place now. The funeral services were fully covered by Tyler Perry. Are you familiar with that name?
Oh, yes. I most certainly am. Those are opportunists. I call them opportunists. People like Crump, Perry, and some of the others are looking for publicity to enhance their scope, or I would say the national scope. And of course, it will help them financially in the long run, because movies must be made. Money is going to be flowing for the next 10 or 15 years on this case, no matter what the outcome is. And then the attorney that's been involved, and Reverend Sharpton, another charlatan that is always looking for that instance where they can make them some money. And I don't blame them. People that's in business to make money with skill should always make it any way they can, long as it's legal.
Now, Doc, Tyler Perry paid for the funeral arrangements.
Well, that's good. That's a good move, because he can always negotiate on the side and say, well, I will do blank, blank if you give me rights to certain things in regard to this matter. That's a good thing to do. That's business.
Now, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who seems to be getting more cases like this than even the Cochran firm did during the OJ trial. Ben Crump is in our state often representing somebody that's been mistreated or malaligned in the legal judicial system. Well,
that's the way that goes too. See, a lot of people have been alleging that these headhunters like that have individuals in the respective states where they feel there's going to be some trouble. Now, this is an allegation that certain legal entities have people that are ready to call within minutes when something happened. They review that case, and within 12 to 14 hours, you hear something from those national leaders, and I named 3 of them.
Al Sharpton, as you said, gave the eulogy, and I know that he did the eulogy for some other prominent members. I don't know if he did Jesse Jackson or not, but I know that he has done some high-profile funerals. He has done the eulogy, and he did the eulogy here for Nolan Wells.
Well, that's real good. See, that brings a lot of national attention to his network, and it makes him stay right in the center of Black affairs. And he is a good guy. He's a minister, licensed and ordained. He's internationally known in the media. And he's just a good man to call when you want some publicity. All this is business, as I told you before, and it's not going to change anytime soon. And if you notice, though, some of these folks work very closely with the what I call poor people in the South. They work well, and they leave financially secure themselves. And nothing wrong with that. Again, I'm going to use that old word you don't want to hear. That's business.
Now, Doc, it's got to be more than business. This is Mississippi. Now, we just got to watching a movie about the 3 civil rights workers that were brutally murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi, some were shot and some say buried alive in an earth embankment in a dam in Neshoba County. How far is Neshoba County from where you and I are?
Well, right now, it ought to be 100 plus miles. from Hinds County.
from Hinds
Yeah, I
County.
would think north of Hinds County.
And how far was Money, Mississippi from where we are?
Well, a couple of more miles.
Couple more miles,
Right.
about 100 miles again.
So yes.
And how far is the Nolan Wells incident from where we are now?
Well, it's about 100 miles south.
About 100 miles.
That's down on the coast.
100 miles south.
Yeah, yes.
So down
Roughly.
within a 100-mile radius, we are seeing all kinds of things that will remind us of things that have happened in the past. Is the clock being turned back, or white folk getting more aggressive today? And what do you say? What do you think? I realize that the autopsy has been delayed, so there's been no determination.
Tune in to Socrates Garrett.
Cause of death is.
Well, Mr. Socrates, you know that autopsy is supposed to be delayed. The actors involved in making decisions and deciding what happened got to look at the evidence and get together and come up with a common narrative. Now, that's the one side. The other side, those independent autopsy specialists got to do the same thing. So they have to look at all the evidence, and you have to have some kind of controversy between the two to promote this thing and make it stronger, sort of have more publicity and more money made from it in the future.
Now, it said the autopsy is being delayed and the autopsy is being performed in Washington, D.C. Now, does that mean that Mississippi is unable to conduct an independent autopsy?
No, it does not. It means that the parents and relatives of this young man, Mr. Wells, don't have a lot of confidence in a state-endorsed and supported autopsy. And they want to get a second opinion, of course. But if I were those folks, I would get at least a third opinion.
Well, the football player, Colin Kaepernick, fully funded this autopsy, the second autopsy in Washington, D.C. Now, here we are having Tyler Perry paying for the funeral down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. We have Colin Kaepernick fully funding the second medical examination, and the results are expected very soon. So, Doc, as of this day, we don't have a cause of death for this young man.
Well, we know we don't have it yet, but I guarantee you there is a cause. There's probably multiple causes. Of course, you know, with not a lot of witnesses that's been able to come forth, you will find one of the first things they're going to say in most cases like this, Samp Simblett, Emmett Till, and some of those others that were found in that dam that you mentioned, those three boys, you're going to find they're going to call it either suicide or he left the group, or when you look at it the second time, they're going to say it might have been a little foul play. He hit his head on a rock when he fell in the water, on and on and on. And that's where the controversy is going to come from with the various autopsies. There are going to be scratches and marks that some is going to overlook. The other autopsy will find something. And it's going to be controversy because you can always look at something, as you know, when you're dealing with wounds, scratches, and other, that there's something that's going to be generally considered to be different when the medical specialists look at it.
Now, you mentioned wounds and scars and things like bruises and things like that on the young man's body, but there have been rumors out that he was actually stabbed, that there were punctures in his body, and that it's believed that the body was found in the middle of the ocean from the search of a telephone records. And so this is getting to be real ugly, Doc.
I guarantee you. And well, they'll probably put that on a shark and say he was floated in the water by pressure, and a shark accidentally came by and hit him with his fins several times. And I'm just trying to be unhumorous, but they will come up with something. That's why I say you have different reports at different times. And the timeline is going to be different according to my information and knowledge of these past events that I can recall from the last 30 or 40 years in the state of Mississippi, Alabama, New York City, and other places.
Wow, Doc, there's a big difference between a shark bite or scratch by a fin than an actual blade or stabbing of an individual. But we don't know.
No, we don't.
We don't know. And so, but it doesn't appear to be an incident that will lead us away from murder of this young man, much like we've experienced with our young folk all across the country. When you get to the beating of Rodney King in Los Angeles, California, which was caught on film, a tremendous beatdown of that individual. And then I guess they paid him enough money later on for him to utter the words, the famous words, "Can't we all just get along?"
Well, now you got to understand, Mr. Socrates, that was not a beatdown according to some. They said that young man was trying to resist. He was trying to get up, they say. And when you have someone beating you half to death, 5 or 6 of them, and you're trying to get up, turn over, and run and all, I wouldn't say that's resisting. That means you're trying to keep your tail from being killed.
Well, why did he ultimately usher the words in, "Can't we all get along"?
Well, I would have to say that it probably came across his mind that I want to promote peace and harmony. I'm going to be satisfied eventually. I've been told certain things. Now, this is just an allegation, of course. And when you are briefed on certain things, you know how to make it sound where you want to promote peace. Because if you get too aggressive in situations like this, sometimes you will lose financially when you have that negative connotation when something happened to you, especially you're not killed, you didn't get killed. Just be calm and you'll get what you deserve. We're going to look out for you. Now, this has been alleged by some of the people that if you have problems like this, you don't holler and squall too much when things like this is in the court of law, when someone has to decide whether they're going to give you $10,000 or $2.5 million.
You think that money would change your statement about the incident?
It won't change mine, but it will change others if they don't have any.
And so the more that you beat a man down, the more likely he is to come up and say, "Love thy neighbor," or can't we all get along?
Well, that's what a Christian's supposed to say. See, a Christian, especially certain Christians in America, have been taught to say that and to advocate that you're supposed to love your enemies and people that abuse you and all, because that is all right as long as you forgive them, because you will be put into the throne of Jesus later on in heaven. I don't like to talk about this, but you're just making me talk about it. And when you have training like this, your mothers, your grandparents, especially those that were born in the late 1900s, 1940s. Matter of fact, before then, the late 1800s, they were taught to love your enemies, turn the other cheek. I've talked about this for years, and that's just the way it is. So you have to forgive folks, according to some people, no matter what they do for you.
Who taught them that?
Well, they've read this in the Bible, and you can get the Bible and interpret anything you want. And, that's why I always use Ecclesiastes chapter 5, I believe, verses 1 through 8. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. The Bible endorses and supports everything, good and bad, because I told you last week that it says basically that there's a season for everything and anything and a time for it. So anything you want to do, you can use that chapter and verses 5, 1 through 8 in Ecclesiastes and approve and get the support you need for anything. I tell people all the time that section is better than the 10 Commandments to take care of all things that you want to do. That is not good to hear, and I've been criticized for saying that, but I didn't write the Bible, I just read it.
Yeah, I'm sure if you had written it would be a different version.
Of course it would, and I might have to get a version done. You know, they have about, I think I read once, about 4,500 different Bibles in the world that's based on Jesus Christ. And there are all kinds of versions by males, females, old, young, different religious groups, and they have it to fit their purpose, whatever it might be. And allegedly, they all talk about the same God, the same heaven, even though it might be in a different form.
Doc, we believe that Christianity has a role to play, the revealing of truth as it relates to history, as it relates to the original invasion of Africa, and the role that the Catholic Church played there, and the role that churches play in general in keeping our people in a state of disbelief and orientation toward their rewards will come in heaven after they die. They will go to a place where there will be milk and honey, and the streets will be paved with gold, and nobody will have to work, and there will be no more pain. And all of that has gotten our folk in a situation where they put up little or no resistance for those people that are oppressing them.
Well, let me tell you what you all don't like to hear, since I believe in giving you both sides of the fact. See, a lot of you don't seem to understand that that religion is an organized political economic system for the top tier leaders, you know, popes, bishops, cardinals, top elders, big denominations. Those leadership teams are in it for economic gain. And that's why they have all the rules. You'll find all the rules are different in these big religious denominations. All the leaders get paid well. And when you get to a certain position, you can leave your church and get an appointment as a bishop or a cardinal, and your salaries increase and you have less responsibility because you have more and more people you can delegate to do various things. And all they have to do is have one big anniversary for you. And if you are over 15 or 30 churches, you're going to get $200,000 or $300,000 plus a new Cadillac or a Mercedes or something like that, and get some of those $4,000 suits. Hey, nothing wrong with that. That's a business. What's wrong with that?
Well, I didn't think that religion and my salvation should be a business. It's like prison, I guess, is a business.
It is.
And so we don't need so many different businesses in our community when everybody is suffering and the quality of life is diminishing, and individuals have a more difficult time just to maintain. You know, there was an old blues song that said, you know, don't you mess with me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying hard not to lose my head.
I've heard of that. And that's true.
Yeah.
There are certain things
like
you don't do.
It's like a jungle sometimes.
It is. It's tough.
It's tough.
And
Now,
if
Doc, back to Nolan Wells.
yes,
Al Sharpton announced a $50,000 reward, and Tyler Perry matched that amount, bringing the total to $100,000. Now, what is the reward for? They said information leading to an arrest and a conviction. So they are saying through this action that this was no accident.
well, the thing is, they know that they're not going to get an initial report that's going to satisfy anyone. It's not going to satisfy the family. It's not going to satisfy Tyler Perry, Mr. Sharpton, and Mr. Crump, and the so-called black and minority Mississippians. And you'll find that it's not going to satisfy the white folks. So you got to have someone that's greedy or needs some extra money, and they are going to secretly call in and give information that they just didn't discover when they were investigating the thing. That's why they put these boundaries out. You might want to call it a reward or whatever. And there's always others with specific information, because if there's two people involved with anything, they're going to tell it to someone, especially their close friends. And sometimes that close friend will share that if they can get a couple of $100,000.
Yeah, and Doc, the public donation have surged over $750,000 so far, and the donations keep coming in. America is watching Mississippi once again.
And the world, sir. That's right. So I expect it to go over, it's going to be close to about $2 million in the end, because this is going to go on for several more weeks before they get a conclusive autopsy. And then they're going to have to look at another 2 weeks or 2 months, whether or not there are going to be any criminal charges. And then those guys and girls going to get a GoFund situation going and get them some money.
Doc, we had a young black boy who didn't have the racial hatred in his heart, didn't understand, didn't know, like you and I would have known, that if I was alone with 10, 12 white boys on a boat, that I'm in a danger zone. There's something in my system that would have said to me that you are in a very precarious position here now. And if you got alcohol and girls involved, especially white girls, then this situation could become volatile on a moment's notice.
Well, that's true. But see, you have to look at the economics behind it. So I tell you right now, when you are in a position where you are a potential money-making scheme, you're going to have what I call excessive friends, even from other races. And when you have a black young man that has potential to become a professional athlete, football or basketball or track, he has been conditioned and told that he is special in most cases. And his tendency is to be regarded as a little different, a little better, a little smarter than the average person in his group. And he is aligned and advised to get away from certain folks and go with the better class in the community. And that's why a lot of them have sleepovers and all kinds of things, have all kinds of advisors and coaches and tutors of other races, because they know if those young men have the potential to make $30, $40 million, they want to get that money out of the black community. And they have a plan, and I've seen this happen for at least, I guess, about 100 years. You're going to get that money into someone else's bank and not the bank of your relatives and your friends, in most cases.
You're listening to Doc and Saab. We're broadcasting live from right here in the We Believe Digital Broadcast Studios, located in Jackson, Mississippi. If you're watching us on Facebook, share this program with your friends and family. Subscribe to the program, send us stars over on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the media outlet We Believe Digital Podcast. This kind of information you won't find coming from any other network here in the Deep South. We're minority owned and operated. Stay tuned. We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Great day to be working with the We Believe Digital Network. Oh, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I wasn't expecting you to be here yet, but since you're here, hey, welcome to the We Believe Digital Network, where we make your dreams come true. We have a podcast station and a radio station that I'm about to show you. Come on inside. Okay, so now that you're inside, let me take you into the room where we make all the magic happen, right here in the We Believe Digital Podcast and radio station studio itself. All right, then, y'all ready? Let's go.
They're going to have to come up with something.
You're talking about me.
Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes room of the We Believe Digital Podcast, where all the podcasts and engineering happens when we make all the magic happen. I am your engineer, head engineer, JB. How you doing? Hope all is well. Currently right now at the We Believe Digital Network, we have a deal going on for $99 an hour studio sessions. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Let us know if you want it. And reach out to your team and we'll build your dream. Have a good one. Oh, come on in. Hey, welcome to the behind the scenes of the We Believe Digital radio station, where everything We Believe Digital radio takes place. I am currently mixing and mastering a playlist for the radio station. Speaking of that, if you have any suggestions or even your own songs or podcasts or talk shows that you might want to be featured right here on the radio station, you can email us at webelieveplatforms@gmail.com. Hey, feel like your voice needs to be heard? Ever wanted to be on your own podcast or even be a part of one? Guess what? You now can right here at the We Believe Digital Network, but we'll make it happen. You can catch us at this email, at this location, and this phone number.
Till the year that Penny.
Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com. Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates
As folks being punished for things like that.
No, you don't.
Look at that situation.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
And we're back. We're broadcasting live from right here in We Believe Digital Broadcast Studios. If you're watching us on Facebook, and subscribe to the program, send us stars. It's very important to us that we grow our viewers nationally and international. We thank those of you that have subscribed and that are watching us all around the world in over 139 countries. They're watching this broadcast from Vietnam to Russia to China, Africa, and the US of A. And so we appreciate your support. Over on YouTube, we want to grow our channel over there, so we need your support. Subscribe to the program. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these shows. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok and Twitch. Anywhere you get your streaming services, you can find We Believe Digital Podcast right there. This show is called Doc and Sock, and Doc is a renowned speaker and author located right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Doc, before we get back to our program, tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, your background, and what you do.
Okay, well, my name is Eldridge Henderson. I'm a great resident now of Hinds County, Mississippi. Currently, I was born in the Delta I lived there about a week or so. Then they moved us to Hinds County, Mississippi. And that's about 13 or 14 miles from where I live currently. I live in a little city now called Clinton, Mississippi. I visit Bolton often, 3 and 4 times a week. And that's an old former plantation. And my dad bought part of it back in the early 1960s. And we just transitioned from being what I call economic slaves to independent slaves. Because when he bought that little land, we didn't have anything. He bought it on a term. And when you already broke and you spend $200 or $300 for some land and got to pay for it for 30 years at $150 a month, and you don't make but $50, and you have to work 4 or 5 jobs to keep your land, it's very difficult. But he was able to do that. So he was able to muster hard, working those long hours, and pay for that land.
How large a family were you from?
Well, there were 6 of us.
6.
There were 6.
That's a relatively small
It,
family.
it was very small because a lot of our neighbors had 10, 15, 16, and some of them had 2 and 3 different wives and common law wives. They had 18, 20, 25 kids. You know that's to be true. And they were good church folks. Every parent I know had at least 2 in there. There was a daddy or a male in all the houses in my community, all down in those woods there. There were men everywhere. And it just was a wonderful place where you had mentoring and you learned how to do all kind of things to survive.
How could men have multiple families and multiple wives, and you call it a place of harmony?
Well, that's why it was so harmonious, because everyone was taken care of one way or the other. All the kids had someone they could look at as Uncle John, Cousin Michael, or Aunt Sally or somebody. And people worked together as a team. They shared their resources. Even what I called if you had to go to church and you didn't have transportation, they would put you on the wagon or put you in their old regular car or walk with you that 5 or 10 miles to church. You know, the various members of the family and the community to get together and walk to church together.
They'd be skipping along them dirt
And
roads.
that's right, enjoying life. Didn't think there was nothing wrong with it because you didn't know any better. And many times we would do that, go to church early on Sundays and get back about dusk dark. You would have Sunday school, breaks, preacher give his regular sermon, have a little lunch, and then a evening service. And just before sundown, you walk home if you were not fortunate enough to have a good wagon, old raggedy T-model Ford to come on, because the cars in our community were always about 30 years behind whatever the recent new model was. And the black folks in that area could always fix those things without any mechanical training other than self-help. By working the team, pooling the resources, they could fix anything. My old granddad, by the way, was a carpenter. And he didn't have a lot of reading skills. He knew nothing about blueprints. You tell him what you wanted. You've heard me tell this story many times. Say, I want a room by 18 by 6. And he'll fix that thing, fix it up for you in a day or two. The parts wouldn't match. And usually just stuff some newspapers between the new building and the old one. Had no air conditioning, no heat, no screen on the window. And the wood was always used wood that he got from the plantation other house that was about to fall down. And that was just life. And we enjoyed it because we didn't know any better. When you got a new room, you had about 8 kids in the house and 2 or 3 parents, plus your grandma might live there. And you got a third room to the house. That was like going to heaven. When you can get a room where you can put 3 people in.
Well, what did you do in the wintertime when it was cold?
Well, you just used the fireplace in the so-called living room, which was a bedroom. And if you had enough wood, you would put a little fire in the stove in the kitchen. But usually that was a little small thing. The stove is not big like they were able to get in the future years in the 50s, where it had maybe 3 eyes, as we call it.
How many bedrooms in the house?
Well, we were very fortunate. We had 1 bedroom, a living room, which was a bedroom, and a family room, and a kitchen. We had 3 wonderful rooms, straight through.
But it was 6 of y'all, or 8 of y'all.
It was 8, yes. Plus now we had relatives that come by from time to time from Chicago and other places and stay, especially during the summer. You know, back in those days, when you visited Mississippi, you would stay a week or 2, and you didn't live in the hotels because black folks couldn't live in the hotels, and they didn't have too many black hotels. They had a few up in Jackson, Mississippi, but they were small, and they charged $4 a day. Where you going to get $4 a day when you had to borrow money to come from Chicago or California to visit?
Wow. Now, your relatives came to visit you. Doc, did you ever spend the night over at your neighbor's house?
No, I didn't. They didn't allow that. But now a lot of the neighbors' children would, but my parents didn't allow that.
So you never spent the night?
No, but they would allow others to come and stay with us. And many of the families would let them come to our house. See, my dad was real strict, and my mother was very religious. So they had rules and standards.
You insinuating that others didn't have the same rules and
No,
standards?
no, they didn't.
They did not.
A lot of them didn't. They were good church folks with different rules.
Did you go to school with white children?
No, but I passed them every day.
You passed them.
Right.
How did you?
Or they passed me.
How so?
Well, I was walking to school and they were riding the bus. Every morning, they would pass us and greet us very cautiously.
Like how?
Well, it'd be inappropriate to talk about it on the WeBelieveDigital.com.
Otherwise, they gave you a few choice names.
Wonderful names. And when it rained,
so you never spent the night at your white friend's house.
no, we couldn't do that. Now, we had some white friends, but when they turned around 12 or 13, they told us we had to call them Mister. And since we didn't want to do that, Dad didn't believe in that. So we lost that so-called friendship.
Before 12,
Around 12 or 13,
you could play with one another
that's right.
and everything was fine.
Fine, no problem, man. We would run rabbits together, play ball and marbles, shoot marbles, play jacks, and all kinds of things. They would eat at our house.
What is play jacks?
Well, jacks is where you have them little iron things and you throw them around. A little game, sort of like a little different from marbles.
Wow. So come 12 or 13, you had to call your playmate Mr. Playmate.
That's right. And we lost that playmate at that time because usually their parents say, you can't play with those folks anymore. You got to work now. You are superior to them. And if they had a little business, they would put that boy or girl in the little store, give them a roll on the plantation or let them drive the tractor. And you did all the hard work.
Doc, we're going to get back to our primary subject here. I'm always interested in how you survived Mississippi in its early days and the difference in the way families protected themselves and how you survive and why it causes you to think like you do today.
Oh, you're saying something wrong with my thinking?
Well, I think that Mississippi has conditioned you. You've never had a white girlfriend, for example.
No, I didn't play that and still don't.
You're okay with interracial dating,
In some instances.
but it was not for you.
No, it's not for me and it's not for most folks.
Is something wrong with it?
Nothing wrong with it.
But it's not for you.
That's right. And it's not good for most people of any race. Look at the history of it, worldwide and nationwide.
Are you saying that races ought to remain separated?
No, I didn't say that.
Or are you saying
That in most cases, interracial marriages are not good for the people that engage in it, and especially for the children. Throughout my years as a public and private worker, almost every interracial child that I've met, poor, middle class, or rich, had some problems psychologically with identity. And I've worked with thousands of them in many different states and worked with them in the military and other places. 99% of them had some kind of identity issue about their interracialness.
now, Doc, some say that the mixing of the blood creates a stronger individual. One of the things that I believe that happened to the Choctaws in Mississippi, who were the dominant race in Mississippi in the beginning. But if you don't get away from your relatives and you have too much interracial, not interracial, but you have too much breeding going on in the same race because there wasn't no cars. It was hard for you to get somewhere where you wasn't related to nobody. So you had a lot of children that were born there in that community that had some form of, I don't want to call it incest, but I don't know what to call it. But anyway, and so mixing of the blood may have made a stronger individual than one pure-blooded person. A pure-blooded dog is harder to keep alive than a mutt that we see that doesn't know where he came from, but his instincts and his survival skills are much better than this pure-blooded animal or mammal.
But that would be the wrong thing for me to believe and would want to work with. I would prefer that pure-bred animal than one of those multiracial dogs or cats or animal. That's just like saying, I want a good cup of coffee, and you put 3 spoons of cream in it and some sugar. You done ruined that coffee. Matter of fact, you've gotten rid of the healing portion of that natural being that's in that coffee. You get all that other stuff it added in it. You got a man-made medicine that's going to cause some major problems health-wise. So when you dilute it, whatever you dilute, you're making it weak, not stronger. But it's in your mind that it is because people told you that.
Oh, so you don't think that mulattoes are stronger constitutionally than pure-blooded Africans?
Well, now, they are stronger constitutional because they will get more constitutional protection versus a real so-called non-mulatto black. Usually their relatives, whether they love them or like them or just will associate with them, will give them preference when it comes to economic advantage, when it comes to positions and responsibility, than they would a regular Joe Blow who was considered a man or woman of one race.
If you're black, get back. If you're brown, stick around.
That's right. And the brown gonna get the job that makes the most money, and eventually he's going to be in the supervisory position, and the poor black gonna be doing all the work, getting less money. That's the basic and the history in America from 1572 to 2026.
Now, Doc, we walked through there so that our viewers can understand that we're having a conversation about how things were in Mississippi and why we have certain skepticisms and why we have certain viewpoints associated with the trial, the murder, or the drowning, or whatever is going to be determined of Mr. Nolan Wells. Now, Nolan Wells is a young man that went on a boating trip with his white friends, the only black apparently on the trip. And now, mysteriously, Mr. Wells is deceased, and we don't know why or how it occurred. Now, we do know, just to recap a bit, we do know that Al Sharpton is preaching the eulogy, that Ben Crump ordered $50,000, that Tyler Perry put in another $50,000 for any information that would lead to the arrest and the conviction of those who committed a crime that has not been called a crime by law enforcement in the state of Mississippi. As a matter of fact, there has been a tremendous delay of getting an autopsy done on Mr. Wells. And Doc, you were saying that there are other methods. If you have flight delays, what could cause the delay in an autopsy? You don't believe that there should have been a delay?
Of course not. That's just an excuse. So they have more transportation vehicles and different types in America than you can count on both hands. If one plane is delayed, you get another, or you call in a private jet. That's just an excuse that you can use when you don't want to solve a problem. You must have excuses and delays if you want to be able to think how you're going to maneuver with the evidence.
You even said they could have rented a van.
Of course they could. That's what most poor people do. They have sick relatives. They can't call the ambulance. So they go and throw them in the back of a car or a truck and take them to the emergency room. I've had that happen many times in my family.
There's no excuse, no reason
No excuse,
for
no.
a delay
Of
in
course
an
not.
autopsy.
No.
And why would you think they have to go to Washington, D.C. to get an autopsy?
Well, they want to have what they call fairness. They have no trust in government autopsies, in racial matters. And if you can afford it, you get 2 or 3 different opinions.
They have no trust with the local authorities or the state of Mississippi or the federal government?
Oh, not
Where's this
well,
trust vacuum?
Well, it's in all those areas, and not only Mississippi now, but throughout the nation. When there are what we call controversial murders or a possibility of murders or suicide or whatever, you are going to find it very difficult to trust anyone on the local level if they have a history of promoting certain things. And on the state level, usually that is a representative of what's been going on the local level for years, because local officials usually want to please the state officials, especially elected officials. They want to keep their jobs. They don't want to be in a Pacific Party and mess up, and then the party leader called and said, well, you can't run for coroner anymore. You can't be sheriff anymore. Blank, blank, blank. We have selected someone else. So you have to toe the code and do what you're supposed to do in order to keep your job. Being a political person and getting paid 4 years without any major responsibility unless you want to do something is one of the greatest things, almost close to dying and going to heaven.
Wow. Wow. Now, Doc, we mentioned earlier the murders of the 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia. Doc, I don't believe anybody was ever charged in that crime.
Nope. Not prosecuted.
Neither charged nor prosecuted.
Well, they don't know exactly who did it. They say they just don't have the evidence to prove exactly who did it. And if you don't have evidence and you have a body and can't figure out who did it, you just have a closed case after so many years. And even if you keep it open, you're going to find they're going to put it in a closed file somewhere, and it's going to be a cold case that you just forget about until people put you under a lot of pressure. Then you open it, and in order to make sure you don't solve it, you can't find certain pieces of evidence. You say it disappeared.
Just disappeared.
Yeah, because you usually know what happens. See, usually state officials know who the people are in communities that kill people, that steal, that rape each other. They know who the people are that go and talk about what's going on, and they have to protect those interests. You have to do that.
Why would you have to protect those interests?
Because you don't want to get exposed. See, every time there's something going on, I call it an undercurrent in a community, there's someone that's causing it, and there's someone that's benefiting. And I just told you before, when you're in a political office where you don't have to have a lot of accountability and you're elected for 2, 4, and 6 years in various positions, you don't have to do anything until about 6 months before the expiration of your term. You run again, and you've heard me say many times, you declare that you're going to solve certain problems, and y'all please give me another 2, 4, or 6 years.
Doc, we're running out of time. We may have to come back and deal with this later on, because I don't think that anything has been presented to the grand jury yet in this case in regards to charging someone with the murdering of Nolan Wells. But I do know, Doc, that is being talked about on every media outlet in the country. And it's another stain on Mississippi. When will Mississippi rise above these kinds of incidents? When will we get to a place where a black boy can go out on a fishing trip with 9 or 10 white folk and come home to his parents?
Well, now that will only happen if he is not with them as an equal. But now, if he's on the boat to clean the fish, well, that's going to be fine. But if he's there as an equal partner or participant in the group, it's not going to change anytime in the future, and especially during our lifetime. I would say maybe in about 200 or 300 years, but we won't exist as a nation in 200 or 300 years, not as a so-called or alleged democratic nation. We won't exist. By that time, America will be a third world country, a third world nation, as all other nations have been. After 200 to 300 years, most nations lose their status as a supreme entity. They usually regress to a second, third, and sometimes a fourth rated nation because of the politics they engage in when they're on the top. Usually they have a tendency to become bullies, and they want to dominate all the other countries in the world. And one day, the bully is attacked by one of those aggressors that are saying, I'm tired of this mess, and I'm going to defend myself, and then they lose their status. The bully loses his status. Because my experience with bullies is that they are always willing to gangbang, no matter whether they're in the church, politics, or in the corporate world. They work as groups and they coalesce with each other, and you can whip them if you separate them.
Doc, there's a lot to unpack here. And we're
That's true.
just scratching the surface. There was seemingly, they have requested that everybody present their cell phones to the authorities and the deleted text messages. They've got all kinds of things going on here that we don't have answers to, that the authorities may have answers, but they're not sharing it with the media. And every national news outlet is covering this situation with Nolan Wells, from YouTube media to CNN to CBS to BBC, all over the world. And Mississippi, once again, is shown in a negative light when it comes to race relations and how it deals with blacks.
Well, that is the case, but the idea and the real truth is that there shouldn't be anyone charged until you get all the evidence, and that's what's going to be delayed. And when you have a lot of actors, different actors with different interests in a situation like this, it usually is a prolonged deal. And this thing, like I told you earlier, going to go on for a long time. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's going to disappear. You're going to have a pause. And then in about 30 days, you're going to hear people talking about a settlement. And when they start talking about that $2 to $10 million, then they're going to get in secret and negotiate and settle for 2.5 to about $5 million. And you're not going to hear anything else about that.
Would you settle?
No, I don't believe in settling for that small amount. In a situation like that, you ought to settle for something like 25 or 30 million. Anything less than that is waste of time.
And
You can't even get a good lawyer and a good judge with $4 or $5 million in an international case like that.
Does it take money to get a good lawyer and a good judge?
You know it does. You wouldn't want one right out of law school, would you? Would you want one with 30 or 40 years of legal experience? You want a judge with 20 or 30 years being a judge, wouldn't you? I would.
Doc, our time is out. We run out of time. And I want you to tell our viewers all over the world how they can contact you. You one of the most renowned speakers in Mississippi on this subject matter and other things. Tell them how they get in contact.
Well, Saka is very easy. Ladies and gentlemen, you can call me at 601-201-1957. That's Eldridge Henderson, 601-201-1957. You can go to the social media and type in L. Henderson, Action Leadership Institute, YouTube, or you can email us at clu369@gmail.com, or just go to the regular internet and type in Eldridge Henderson, and you'll find us almost anywhere. And we do, Mr. Socrates, as you know, go and do public speeches, and I will even preach a sermon if necessary.
Doc, you have a radio show as well? I believe.
That's right. I have a radio show every Thursday from 4 to 5 on WMPR. That's 91.1 FM. WMPR 90.1 FM in Jackson, Mississippi. One of the greatest radio stations in the state. So, folks, if you need a speaker, we don't care about traveling all over the world. All you do is call us and arrange it, and we'll take care of it and give you some of the best information that you've ever had in your community.
Doc, again, we're going to unpack this later on. This is just the beginning of our dialogue and our conversation, and we're certainly going to follow the outcome and the turns and the tricks that are being manifested in the association with Mr. Nolan Wells. To his family, our prayers are with you. I know today is an extremely tough day, and I wish you justice in every way, both emotionally, physically, civically, monetarily, whatever it is that helps you get through these difficult times. With that being said, this has been Doc and Sock coming to you from We Believe Broadcast Studios in Jackson, Mississippi. Y'all stay safe and good night.